Welcome to the What If podcast with your hosts, Spencer Worth Davis and Ryan Copperrood.
Heck.
Hi, Spencer!
Hey, dude. I've heard that the heck sounder is a popular one. I wanted to make sure that got placed prominently today.
Shout out to our listeners.
I know I've been slipping it lately on the soundboard. So
look, guys, sometimes we get so deep into our conversations about very, very important things on this show.
However,
I'll try and do better today.
We
got a few new ones
too. We do have some new ones. I think for those that don't know, well, we have to talk about. We have a lot to talk about related to y'all listeners because we love you so much. We have a couple things we gotta get through. Another thing related to the soundboard poll is that for those of you who don't know, who've never seen the inside of our studio, I don't have access to the soundboard. The soundboard belongs to Spencer. You might have heard that on an episode earlier. But I don't have access to it. So when Spencer's telling stories...
Anytime you want to bring one, bro, we can plug it in.
Didn't you say do you have a second NPC that I could use for a soundboard?
I sold it because it was worth money. Get the app on your phone, dude. It's like $10.
I told you about it and it didn't work.
Well, I think that's user error.
Well... Hey, prove me wrong.
Give me your phone. I'll put a bunch of weird shit on there for you.
Prove me wrong. But anyway, that's why sometimes it doesn't happen is because Spencer is the one talking and then he can't really soundboard himself because he's trying to do too many things at once.
It's true. Other times I remember and set myself up for great soundboard-based jokes, though. So.
Ooh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to, so for those of you who don't know, the poll that we're referring to, I guess I should clarify. There's a lot of you who listen to this show that are not actually in our Facebook group.
True. Most of you, in fact.
There's a lot of you who listen, and a good amount of you now that are in the Facebook group, but not all of you. But if you go search the group section of Facebook for the What If podcast, there's a group entirely dedicated to y'all lovelies who listen and want to do polls and crack jokes and upload memes. We had some drawings last week, which was very tight.
Oh, the whale tanks?
The whale tanks.
Yeah, that was great.
Was very fantastic.
The tank top interpretation was maybe my favorite.
Very terrific. Thanks, Aaron. Mm-hmm. Good job. But yeah, so yeah, if you want to participate in those polls, also if anyone has suggestions for sound drops, you can always send us audio clips.
If you're watching TV or fucking around on YouTube and come across something funny, just send us a link or even just tell me. I'll go find it.
Yeah, it's very easy for us to add these to the show, so we can definitely continue doing that.
Make room for a couple new ones today, in fact.
We did make room for a couple new ones.
I'll try and time them appropriately, though.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like you can't.
I'm excited to play them, but I'll make it count.
You can't light the firecracker too quick.
Timing is everything.
Indeed. Another thing we got to say related to y'all beautiful listeners is, oh boy, we got a bunch of new Patreon listeners.
Tight.
For those that don't know, we have a Patreon also under the name The What If Podcast, because that's what the fuck you're listening to. And if you do support the podcast at the base level of $5 a month, we give you a full episode of the show on top of the full episode we give you every week for free that you're listening to right now.
Yeah.
Every Friday. So our regular episodes come out on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and then our Patreon episodes come out on Friday. So we do 2 episodes of the show every week, and if you support us on Patreon, patreon.com/whatifpodcast. Is that right?
Yep.
That's where you can go if you want to get that additional episode every week. So we have to thank Hanklin /Cody and his girlfriend, I believe, Shane, Alexandra, Jeremy, and Kim, Elizabeth, Chris, and Mike. A bunch of new folks got in on the Patreon in the last 7 to 10 days or so. So thank y'all so much for supporting the show. Legitimately, you guys are helping us actually make this show. So
how many people was that?
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 9 people.
The 9 of you covered our hosting for like almost 2 months.
Yeah.
That's 2 more months where we can still do the show, just with 9 of you giving us $5. That's tight.
That's very tight. So thank you guys very much. If you want to get more free content, go head over there. We're also talking about, we're going to do the Facebook Live episode too, because that's another thing with our listeners we got to talk about.
Yeah, let's decide on a date for that right now so we can tell people about it.
Oh boy. Should we decide on that right now?
Yes.
Could it just be...
No, people need to plan ahead.
No. That's what I'm saying. Can it be our next Monday episode, though?
Well, no, because then... What, we're just going to put the whole episode out live, unedited, the day before it actually comes out? That's no fun.
Why not?
It's got to be an extra special thing. We promise special things because 100 people gave us reviews.
You're saying we're doing... That's true. Yeah, and like way more than 100. Thank you all who have been leaving reviews lately. We jumped 100 and then jumped way up even after that. So thanks to everybody who's been leaving reviews on iTunes. I tell you what, we'll do this. Spencer and I will have to confer off the air on a break, and we'll tell you guys... later in the show.
I will insert it right here in the podcast. I'm gonna wait.
Heck.
Okay, that's what, now I know where it goes. Our Facebook Live episode is happening Sunday, January 7th at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Did we just do it?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. That's when we're doing it, guys.
Yeah. We didn't insert that in post at all.
Nope. All right, Ryan, any other announcements, or can we play this new game that we made up?
You guys, Spencer invented a new game.
It's really fun, at least for me.
For those of you who don't know, Spencer and I do a radio show in the Twin Cities, Minnesota, which is where we live. And on the show tonight, Spencer invented a new game that we played, and we had so much fun. We had to bring it to you all who live around the world and cannot listen to our radio show in the Twin Cities.
So there's a Wikipedia article that's just called... Well, Wikipedia does lists of a list of articles that are all related in some way,
which is news to me in its own right.
It's pretty cool. Like there's a list of I've used it when we were researching stuff sometimes because they will do like a list of 1970s UFO encounters and shit like that. They'll just like top 40 songs from 1980. Like they'll just combine all those articles into one list.
That's awesome.
So there's one that's just called Unusual Articles, and it's incredibly thorough. And there's many categories and subcategories, and they're all hilarious or weird.
And if you didn't gather that Unusual Articles is right up our alley.
Yeah, extremely on brand here at What If. So the game is Ryan picks a number between 1 and 16, because that's how many, or 1 and 15, because category 16 is entirely pictures, and that's no fun. 1 and 15, because there are 15 main categories, and then also randomly picks a subcategory. So it goes something like this. Ryan, pick a number between 1 and 15.
7!
All right. Now pick a number between 1 and 9.
7!
Okay. 7.7 is video games. Ryan, pick a letter between A and V.
U.
Try again.
D.
Okay. We are now looking at a Wikipedia article called Don't Buy This. Don't Buy This, also known as Don't Buy This, 5 of the Worst Games Ever, is a ZX Spectrum video game compilation released in 1985. As described on the box, it contains 5 of the poorest video games. Instead of rejecting the submissions, they decided to mock the original developers by releasing them together and publicly brand it as unoriginal and awful. The 5 games are...
Savage!
The 5 games are Fido 1, a game where a player controls a dog named Fido to defeat moles and birds and to protect an area for several levels. Fido 2 features similar gameplay as the original Fido, but Fido can now move up and down instead of just left and right.
Ooh.
Fido can now also shoot laser beams from its eyes in order to destroy other enemies and gain health.
Okay, I won't make fun of that. That's way tighter. That is an obvious and distinct improvement.
Game 3, Fruit Machine. The player controls an animated low-resolution slot machine with reels that spin rather slowly. The instructions sarcastically describe the game as a mysterious, original new game that requires skill, timing, nerve, and absolute concentration.
Except it's just like a one-armed bandit slot machine?
Yes.
Dude, I was in an airport.
I've never played a slot machine.
Like in a casino at all?
Ever, anywhere.
Okay, well, if we're going to be in New Orleans together, we're definitely doing that.
Okay.
So I was in an
now we're going to get assaulted by weirdos who like UFOs in New Orleans.
No, we won't tell
Ryan
anyone
and I are going to
when
New
we're
Orleans in March. If you want to set up a live podcast for us, we'll come talk about aliens. We just need like $100 each.
Actually, that's a good point. We totally would go do that.
$100 and 3 beers each. We will talk about aliens for up to an hour.
I'd say 90 minutes.
I'm going to need 4 beers then,
We'll play the Wikipedia
I'll need 4
game
beers
for
and
30 minutes.
$110. We'll do a live Wikipedia game for 4 beers and $110 each, up to 90 minutes.
Or we'll do it for less if you give us your local, like, very amazing rundown of what we should do in New Orleans.
Bet. There are 2 more games. Can I finish?
Wait, I have to say one thing about the slot machine game, which is that
right.
that's
what we're doing here.
I was in an airport recently.
Okay.
And I was at a bar and looked over at the guy next to me, just like glanced over, and this dude was sitting there drinking like a Bud Light, and not a Bud Ice, a Bud Light, and and was just playing a phone game, like an iPhone game that was a slot machine.
What do you win?
You win coins
numbers
in an iPhone game slot machine. And I was like, I've never seen a sadder thing in my entire
life. You found
life.
the dumbest man on the planet.
I was just like, if I were to do that, I would just create a slot machine game and put it up on the App Store and be like, you fucking win. Every time you fucking win. Because fuck it, it doesn't matter. It's not real money. None of this
That's
contributes
probably
to anything.
actually less fun though. Like part of the fun or
you
the
just win
addictive. No, I bet it's like I bet there's a formula to what the proper ratio is to make it just addictive yet frustrating enough to keep playing.
It's got to be like 3 percentage points higher than a normal casino, because a normal casino will fuck you, but 3 percentage points higher might be just enough where you win more than you lose.
It's got to be frustrating, but you also have to come out on top. Yeah.
Like imagine if your friend came to you and was like, hey Spencer, dude, check it out. I got like $3 trillion in my iPhone slot machine game account. And you're like, dude, what?
What the fuck was that?
I couldn't wait any longer. That
New
was too good.
soundboard, what's up?
All right, the other 2 games are Race Ace, a racing game where the player controls a light blue race car that can only turn in 90 and 180 degree angles.
Whoa. That sounds like that would require a lot of skill to
press a
execute
button, you're
on.
just instantly going backwards. The game is impossible to win regardless of the speed setting of the player's car because the computer-controlled cars advance more quickly every time the player turns. On one screen, the game is erroneously titled Ace Racer.
What? As in they incorrectly named their own game?
Yes. And lastly, Weasel Willy, a game where a weasel has to avoid trees that are completely green and its own large uniform footprints. The trees spawn in random locations whenever a level starts, so the weasel may be blocked by trees, preventing the player from being able to play the level. The weasel may even start a level with a tree occupying the same space as it does, causing immediate loss of the level. It's like the Philadelphia experiment. The weasel fused with the tree.
Fused with the tree.
Yeah.
That's a spawn kill, and that's not even cool.
All right. Let's do another one.
All right.
Give me a number 1 through 15.
5.
5. Okay. 5 is expansive. Give me a number 1 through 8.
8.
Okay. You have selected category science, subcategory plants.
Uh-oh.
Now please give me a letter A through T.
I say to you, C.
Okay. You chose the chandelier tree.
Ooh.
The chandelier tree in Drive-Thru Tree Park is a 276-foot tall coastal redwood tree in Leggett, California, with a 6 foot wide and 6 foot by 9 inch high hole cut through the base to allow a car to drive through it.
This tree.
Yep, I've been inside that tree.
No, you haven't.
Yeah.
Dude, come on. That's a little intimate, don't you think?
Yeah, well, do what you gotta do.
I've been inside that tree.
I have fucked trees.
What the fuck was that?
Yeah, I intimated it. You just went for it. This
It's a tree that you can drive through.
This is also what happens after we get off the radio show too. Is that
Little loopy. Been doing this for a few hours.
we can't? It's mostly I think that we can't swear when we're on the radio, so we have to get
true,
all of our swears
true,
out
true.
after the radio.
I already forgot what the other one that we added was. It's gonna be fun when I remember to use it. All right, that was a quick one. You can drive your car through a tree in California. Let's do one more.
Okay, we'll do one more.
1 through 15. Go.
10.
Ooh, okay. There's only one subcategory. Now I need a letter B through V.
T.
Try again.
M.
Ooh. Well, M would be the Montauk Monster, which is actually something we've discussed on the show before. You picked the cryptozoology category, by the way, so all of these are going to be extremely lit.
Money.
We've talked about many of them on the show before.
How about H?
H is humanzee, another thing we've talked about on the show.
Whoa,
a hypothetical human-chimpanzee hybrid.
How about D?
Ooh, D is great. D is Wikipedia entry dog spinning.
Please hold. Please hold.
What the fuck was that?
That should be part of the game. Every time you read the name of a new article,
We just say, "When the fuck was that?"
you have to hear from Bernie.
Wait.
What the fuck was that?
Dog spinning.
Can I also add a new layer to the game where you read the thing and then someone has to guess what the thing is before the actual answer is read?
I would love for you to guess what dog spinning is.
Because I feel like that's okay. I think that dog spinning was a practice done in the 1800s by veterinarians.
Wait, hold on. Where?
Whoa, am I close?
I've always wanted to have another podcast where it's like a really short podcast, like 5 to 10 minutes, where it's like 2 or maybe 3 people. I'm telling you, ideas. This is a callback to the radio show, but
we got plenty.
The ideas are nothing. The execution is everything. But the concept for the podcast is that someone has to improvise a Wikipedia article based on someone else's suggestion. And maybe you do a few of them, but it's real short. So anyway, this is basically what you're doing right now. This is great. Dog spinning.
We need really good improvs to be better at this than I'm about to be.
1800s where?
All right, so in the 1800s in like slightly like somewhere in Australia, I'll just say somewhere in Australia.
Okay.
It was a veterinary practice done to cure dogs of their ailments, wherein
What sort of ailments?
well, any and all, back in the 1800s, a lot of things were sort of cure-alls, right? So
Sure. Just give them some meth. Call it good.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just
yeah.
tinctures of any kind that would solve all problems.
Mostly cocaine. Yep.
Yeah, largely cocaine and other illicit substances like booze and shit. And what they would do is they would put this sort of like life vest jacket on a dog.
Okay.
And that life vest actually like locked into a ceiling fan.
Oh, they had ceiling fans in the 1800s.
And they would just turn the ceiling fan, for sure. And they just turn the ceiling fan on high and just let the ceiling fan go for like 5 to 10 minutes while the dog just spun in circles until all of the evil / sick spirits were blown out of its ass or face.
Well, I was really...
I nailed it! What you say is, well, I was going to correct you, but you were 100% correct.
I forgot to read the article while you were saying all that because I was so engaged with your description.
Thank
so
you
we'll find out together if you were accurate or not.
Very much. I can give you time to read it if you want me to Google
I'm just going to read it aloud and we'll find out together.
whether or not ceiling fans exist.
Dog spinning is a ritual that was traditionally practiced on the first day of Lent in the village of Brodilovo in southeastern Bulgaria. It is related to similar rituals used on this day at other villages in which the dogs were whipped or beaten. The ritual is thought to have pagan origins and was performed in order to prevent rabies. You were sort of close. In dog spinning, a dog is suspended above water on a rope. The dog is turned repeatedly in a given direction to wind the rope or is inserted into a loop of rope that has been twisted already.
No way.
The dog is then released so that it... The dog is then released so that it spins rapidly in the opposite direction as the rope unwinds.
Bro, that's so fucked up. I was also
section
vaguely
2 of this,
kind of correct. What the fuck?
Section 2 of this article is titled Animal Welfare Concerns.
Yeah, no doubt it was.
You know what the dogs thought about that?
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
I don't know if anyone else is having fun with this game, but I am really enjoying it. I'd like to attempt one more if that's cool with you.
Okay, I just need a slight bit of recognition for two things. One, that is a super fucked up practice that they did called dog spinning.
I bet it also didn't prevent rabies.
No fucking way. And also, I was like surprisingly
You're pretty close.
Close to correct about spinning a dog in circles to help prevent disease.
I was envisioning, you know how like people will spin plates on like a stick or something?
Oh, sure. You just put a finger up and spin a dog on it?
Like Harlem Globetrotters, but with dogs.
Where finger go?
Gross, Ryan. 1 through 15.
3.
Ooh. All right, there's only one subset, so we're good. This is not in alphabetical order. Pick a letter, I guess.
P.
Sorry, this is not in order for some reason.
Or nah.
You said M? Okay, yeah, let's go with M. No, there is P. Sorry. Here we go.
Thank you.
Sorry, it just took me a second to get there.
Come on, dude. I know. I'm not looking at it, but I know.
This is you picked well.
Nice.
You've chosen Phantom Time Hypothesis.
What the fuck was that?
The Phantom Time Hypothesis is a concept wherein people think that they have memories of things that happened to them, but it's actually phantom time, which means they skipped into a reality and had an experience and came back, but the time was like phantom time because they're the only person who experienced it and nobody else did. So they're like, dude, wasn't that crazy when the Kool-Aid Man ran through the wall and totally punched Dave right in the dick and then he ran back out the big hole? And you're like, dude, what are you talking about? That didn't happen at all. And you're like, no, bro, that super happened. But you only think that happened because you just experienced jump, phantom time.
What the fuck was that?
We should just call this game What in the Fuck Was That?
That's probably better. Dude, we're going to get horrible. People are going to be like, what the fuck did you guys do for the first 20 minutes of the episode?
I don't care. Fuck you guys. I do this podcast for me. This is free. If you don't like it, you can turn it off or find another podcast.
Look,
whatever.
We'll get to this week's episode shortly.
Maybe. You were close, but the phantom time hypothesis is a theory by Herbert Illig that the early Middle Ages from 614 to 911 never happened. Therefore, it is actually 1720 rather than 2017.
I'm sorry, why did he make that hypothesis?
First published in 1991, the hypothesis proposes a conspiracy by the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and possibly the Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII to fabricate the Anno Domini dating system retrospectively so that it placed them at the special year of AD 1000 in order to rewrite history to legitimize Otto's claim to the Holy Roman Empire.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Sure.
It all makes sense.
Bro, the audacity of rich and powerful fucking shitty dudes is just out of this world.
No, you guys are all wrong, but you're off by like 300 years. I'm Otto.
Hey, Otto, isn't it? Aren't you like a little early? No, okay. Just hang on for a sec. Okay, so no, just listen. So what had happened was, that you know how we all think that like the last 400 years happened? Well, they didn't. They didn't happen. The last 400 years, they didn't happen. Otto, I'm pretty sure they did. Like we have like a lot of writings and like things from the last 400 years. Yeah, no, I'm the king now. I'm the king, and I get it. I own it, and I get to be here. So do you want your head chopped off? Okay, cool. The time didn't happen. Fam time. Fuck you guys. Go work my fields.
This is considered a dick move.
There's the phantom time hypothesis. Dude,
Wow.
We're playing this game every week. I'm sorry if you don't like it. This is the best thing I've ever come up with in all like 60 episodes of the podcast.
We'll make it a recurring segment unless you guys really violently hate us. And if you do, you can tell us at hi@whatifpodcast.com.
I just looked at the computer.
Yeah.
And we are indeed 25 minutes into this podcast. And I don't think we've mentioned what this episode is supposed to be about.
No, I
yet.
know we haven't, actually. I know we have not.
Sorry about that.
I mean, that's okay.
You guys can read, right? You probably saw the title. We'll get there.
That was probably the biggest part of the confusion. They were like, did they title this wrong? What occurred?
We're talking about hacking.
What occurred in the interim here?
Yeah.
We are.
What
We're
if
talking about
you got Hacksword?
did you say Hacksod?
One of the first booking emails I ever sent.
Yep.
was to Hacksaw Jim Duggan when I was about 15 years old.
Holy Jesus, bro.
If you're not familiar with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he was I believe, WCW wrestler.
In the I know he's a wrestler. That's as much as I know.
Probably early 90s. And after, his big thing was that he carried a 2x4 with him into the ring. And when he walked into the ring, he would hold the 2x4 up in the air and he'd go, "Hi-oh!"
God bless wrestling.
That was his catchphrase.
I'm pretty sure just like screaming is not a catchphrase, but.
Well, there's that one guy now who just yells yes over and over again. Ric Flair just yelled woo.
Yeah, but that's not like a phrase, you know.
Whatever. So
it's his catch sound effect.
In the early days of the internet, I found Hacksaw Jim Duggan's personal website, and it had like a contact email on it. So I sent an email that just said, "How much for Hacksaw to party?" And I never got a response.
No way. No way.
We wanted to book Hacksaw for a private party, and he never responded to us.
You should have. You know what you should have done is you should have seen. Quick question: how much would it cost for us to get custom sound drops for the podcast from retired wrestlers?
Well, see, this was like 20 years ago, so I didn't know that I was going to be making a podcast.
No, this is an entirely separate question.
Oh, right now we should do this.
I'm saying right now,
Yes.
how much would it cost for us to get retired wrestlers to say things about our podcast?
Not a lot, probably.
I mean,
patreon.com/whatifpodcast if you'd like to contribute to this idiocy.
you guys, we could do amazing things together. Together.
Is that our campaign slogan?
Let's do amazing things together.
If you give us money, we'll do dumb shit. 2020.
Hey, look, that entire strategy has worked for Cards Against Humanity for like 5 years.
Very true.
All they do every holiday season is like, hey guys, we're gonna do something dumb. Do you want to give us money for it? And everyone's like, fuck yeah, we do. Oh, that's pretty crazy, guys. We raised like $38 million over the holiday season. Thanks so much for supporting our dumb shit. Yeah, no problem. We'll be back next year.
We all hate money. This podcast is going to be over soon. We should talk about hacking.
All right.
Is it?
Actually, let's take a quick break. We're gonna get a fresh reset, and we're gonna come back.
We're gonna try again. Take two.
This has been the intro to this week's episode of the What If Podcast. We'll be back, and we're actually gonna run through. What if you got hacked? Have you ever been hacked? Ever lost even like something trivial, like your social media or an email account?
No, our most recent email at hi@whatifpodcast.com though is security alert from Google.
Oh,
I think it was you logging in from across the table here though, so I think we're okay.
Sure.
We'll be back in just a second talking about hacking.
We want to hear from you. Send us a message. Email hi, that's HI, @whatifpodcast.com.
Come on,
I didn't know we were recording, my bad.
I had it. Look, I'ma say it louder for the people in the back. It's the What If Podcast. What if you got hacked? I don't really know. It never happened to me, and that's the way I like to keep it. I don't even want to sleep when I'm on my computer or on my phone. I try to turn off my Wi-Fi, never ever roam. I just stay close to the crib, and when someone tells me, I say dibs.
We're back. I've never understood what hacking is. It's because it's just portrayed horrifically, I'm assuming, in like CSI and 90s movies, and people type a lot of gibberish into a computer and then win money or something.
Close.
Can you give me a more accurate description of what hacking is?
I can. The reality, though, I would say, is that hacking, like most top level sort of genre descriptors,
It's pronounced hacking.
Hacking. Oh boy. Oh man. Hacked.
We've been hacked.
How did we not do that earlier?
We failed our penetration test.
Oh.
I'm done. I'm just gonna say it once. It's the only thing I wrote down in my notes for the words penetration test.
Great. Thanks.
It's all on you for the next half an hour here, bud.
This is a sex joke I can make about hacking.
It wasn't even a joke. I just said it.
Yeah,
I just
you
said
did.
the
You
two
just
words.
said the phrase.
Yep.
I would say that there are you can think of a simile or a metaphor being that you could call hacking like music, and under music there are lots of genres, in the same way that there are a lot of genres of hacking. So and actually,
who's the T-Pain of hacking?
I don't have a good
Okay, I'll figure it out by the end of
connect
the show.
for you.
Keep going.
Thanks, please do. So the way that it's described as hacker culture in general is a subculture of people who enjoy the intellectual challenge of creatively overcoming limitations of software systems to achieve novel and clever outcomes. So, like, if you've ever heard of people who try
Sounds
to build,
pleasant.
if you ever heard of people who try to build, like hackathons. Have you ever heard of that concept of like a hackathon?
Yeah.
A lot of times a hackathon is just a bunch of people who make software who get together and go like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we used the API from like the public transit system to make like an app that notifies you when your bus is coming, or like whatever, hackathons can just mean people who are trying to like use tech to mess with something.
I watched a documentary today called DEF CON, or about DEF CON.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The like, I guess it's a conference or like hacker meetup in Vegas every year.
Yeah.
And
I haven't seen it.
I forget what the documentary is called. It's just called like DEF CON, a documentary or something like that.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. It seemed like a lot of nerds just hanging out and partying for a week though.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what the concept at a high level of hacking is just people who like to play with technology and software. And we're going to get into this in a second about sort of the history of hacking. But the actual, like...
We're going to talk about phone phreaking at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Dude, it goes back to it, like almost directly.
Good.
But then there's this whole sort of, like you said, the way that it's sort of being like branded and portrayed in the media right now, which is, I think... I mean, it's obvious why it's become what it's become, or why the relevant term has taken over.
It sounds pretty cool.
The concept of hacking or being a hacker.
Yeah.
It does sound cool.
It's just a cool name.
For
too.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But the way that we hear about it when we hear about it these days is 50 million people's social security numbers were stolen from Equifax or whatever.
There was I saw an article today about like 60 some million of Bitcoin was stolen via some sort of hack.
Yep.
I don't even know what that means though, because like, is that phishing for passwords and personal information? Is that somehow exploiting some sort of weakness in an actual like server somewhere? Like, where is that information coming from?
Do you mean the cryptocurrency
Just
hack?
in general, like when people say hacking, that's like, is it just because it's such a wide range of possible things that it's just an umbrella term for a whole bunch of shit?
Yes.
And when you see it in the media, usually it doesn't get more specific than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some publications that take it up another level. Like Motherboard is Vice's tech publication that does a pretty good job of getting a little bit more specific. There's also ones like Engadget and some of those other ones that are a little bit more tech heavy. We'll talk a little bit more about like how the exploits were actually achieved by some of these hackers.
But the average dummy like me wouldn't get it anyway, so they just call it hacking.
Yeah, I think that's sort of
fair.
That's sort of what you're right. I mean, it is an umbrella term. And it's also, again, like there's not only genres of like how people do things that are considered hacking, but there's also another sub layer to that of the ways people go through hacks in general, or the way, like the techniques that are used to do, like here, these are things you've heard before. Vulnerability scanning, brute force attacks, password cracking, packet analyzation, spoofing attacks, or phishing, rootkits.
Spoofing attacks?
Spoofing attacks.
Like that's...
You've been boofed.
That sounds terrible.
Social engineering, Trojan horses.
I don't know what any of that shit means.
Computer viruses, computer worms, keystroke logging. Like, have you heard of versions of all those things?
Some of them.
So keystroke logging is you can put a packet,
I can infer what that one
or
is.
a password on a piece of hardware on someone's computer that logs keystrokes. You use that to take bank information, passwords, etc. That's considered a hack. Worms are self-deprecating programs. Self-replicating
We're
programs.
a bunch of pieces of shit just stealing people's passwords.
We feel bad about it, but we're programmed to do it.
My butt looks the same as my face.
Is that your worm impression?
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Fuck with me, Jose.
Fuck with me, Jose. Impressions on impressions on impressions. But yeah, so there's all these sort of different ways to do that kind of to use techniques, and then there's also like hackers themselves have. So okay, they're obviously. I know that the hacker culture is a pretty protective one. So by all means, hi at whatifpodcast.com. We'll make clarifications if we get anything wrong. We're not trying to piss anybody off.
We're absolutely going to get things wrong.
We're absolutely going to get things wrong because we always do. But this is like our best understanding of kind of hacking and something that I've just been curious about because I feel like it is. It's every week or like every month that it's like, shit, a bunch of shit got stolen or dumped on the internet or somebody's fucking credit cards from some country are getting dumped from some service. And you're like, what the fuck is all this about, you know? And how do I fit into this whole fucking thing?
Also, if you're here for actual information, there are so many better places to get real information.
Yeah.
And they're all less fun though. So hang out with us.
Yes, we're gonna have fun information.
Don't assume anything we say is correct.
And I'll give you guys all like links to stuff in the show notes and stuff like that too, so you can check it out for yourselves. So hacker culture from a high level is people who just sort of like to play with software, right? The level down that we hear about
it's not just software though, isn't it?
No, not just software. I should say technology.
Okay.
People who like to play with technology and see if they can bend it or change it or make it do something else or have it create an unexpected outcome or something like that.
Sure.
Now, the level that we hear about every day when we're hearing about these like major corporations who are getting things stolen from them and people are selling them or ransomware and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's sort of referred to usually as security hacking
Okay.
or cracking is another way that it's called, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. It's people who are trying to crack into things like crack into a safe, essentially.
Okay.
So hackers and crackers is what they call people who are doing that specific kind of hacking.
Okay.
And then, so underneath it, when I was talking about different genres, there's different classifications of it. So white hat cracking or hacking is people who do it for non-malicious reasons. So people who are trying to break into stuff to go, hey, I work for NASA, and it's like super important that no one can jump into our shit. You know, even though we'll get to this later, It's super important that no one can get into our shit and like derail a satellite or a launch or something like that. So NASA employs people whose entire job is to try to break into NASA software.
They didn't in 2001. I got a great story about it later because, of course, I found the one thing that relates to aliens about this.
Of course, aliens. But there's a lot of people who do hacking for the purpose of like preventing bad things from happening to places that they're not supposed to happen to.
I used to work with high schoolers who were locked up, but who were high schoolers and knew more about how technology works than I do. And because they were locked up, we had to, for the most part, prevent them from getting to the internet or at least ways of communicating with people on the internet.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier tonight. I used iPads in my class a lot, and I had to like do the guided access thing so they could only access the one app that they were supposed to be using.
Right.
And my test was always like, if I thought I had it locked or secured, I would just hand it to a kid and be like, hey, go get to Twitter. And there was a kid
hey man, can you get to Twitter?
Right. Like, I'm not going to get you in trouble or anything. Like, don't do anything stupid. Don't post anything. Don't log in. But like, can you get to Facebook right now? And there was a kid who I never figured out what he was doing, but like within literally 10 seconds, regardless of how secure I thought that iPad was.
He just said, yes.
He would hand it back to me with Twitter open on it.
Damn.
This kid was like 15, 16.
Do you think he had just been like locked up long enough and he'd been playing with him long enough that he was like able to figure it out? Or do you think it was just...
I think his hustle outside of school / jail was...
computer related?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes a lot more sense.
And I know it wasn't like he didn't know my password because I would change it. Like, I'd be like, leave. Walk outside the door. I'll change the password.
And you change it to some gibberish and then he'd come
10
back.
10 seconds later. Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
So I still have no idea what he was doing.
This is still
I know this is just like Spencer sounds like an old man hour, but...
No, but I think this is the crazy part about, we're in an age now where kids who are in elementary and middle school are learning HTML and like
there's a huge gap in the generation or in between our generation and the generation younger than us.
Right. Look, I should clarify really quickly. I don't think that knowing HTML makes you a hacker. I was not insinuating that. I
know one type of code. The kind that we used in the 90s.
What I was saying was kids are learning the earliest building blocks of coding at a very young age these days.
Hear ye. The children know HTML.
We must run for the hills and burn the children.
The boy has programmed Flash.
He is a witch and we must burn him. Soon they will have taken over the food chain.
They have seized the means of production.
We will all starve if we do not kill the boy.
Jesus, bro. It's okay, though. The Middle Ages didn't happen.
I mean, it's phantom time, bro.
We talk about aliens yet?
No, because I got more to teach you about hacking.
Carry on.
So, all right. So you kind of get the. I guess what I mostly wanted to make clear is that there is no one thing for what hacking is or who hackers are. They can be a lot of. I thought it was
like a dude in a black hoodie with gloves on, typing furiously
while
like the Matrix flashes on his screen.
Mr. Robot, exactly.
I've never watched it.
It's actually a really good show.
Is that sort of the premise?
I highly recommend it. I mean, it's pretty hard to explain the premise.
I'm still catching up on The Simpsons and X-Files.
Well, yeah. There's a lot more to Mr. Robot than that, but actually one of the cool things about when you were saying like, oh, it's probably gets portrayed really poorly and shit like that, Mr. Robot actually had like a table of hacker consultants who were actually white and black hackers that they paid to be on the show so that the actual tech in the show
white and black meaning like...
Sorry, white hat and black hat, not the colors of their skin.
Okay, white hat meaning like generally for good, black hat meaning we're trying to steal shit?
Black hat meaning, yeah, did I get to that when I was up? So black hat
I don't think we got that far.
Oh, all right, sorry, my bad. Black hat hackers are people who violate computer security for malicious reasons and personal gain, basically.
Can we talk about that name for a minute?
Black hat versus white hat?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, then gray hat is what they call the people who do a little bit of both. And
just for the record, as a dude, you should never be wearing a fedora.
That was the point you were trying to make?
Yeah.
The white hat versus black hat? Yeah. Okay, don't, unless you're Samuel L. Jackson.
No.
And then you can wear your Kangol backwards and be Samuel L. Jackson.
That's not a fedora. An old man wearing a Kangol is totally different.
All right.
Dude's like 90 years old.
You guys,
can do whatever
you're
he wants.
allowed to do that. Samuel L. Jackson is not.
If there are any 90-year-olds named Samuel L. Jackson listening to our podcast, wear whatever you want on your head.
And also, please get in touch with us because you might be a legend. Yes. But yeah, so the black hat people,
consultants.
Yeah, and the black hat people who do that are people who do like the ransomware stuff, and the people who go in and try to just fuck things up for the sake of fucking things up.
Ransomware is a real thing. That's not just like a shitty CBS.
No, ransomware is a very real thing.
Okay.
There have been recent ransomware exploits of people whose computers have been taken over.
And the general concept of ransomware is what?
That the crux of the virus locks your computer down until you send a certain amount of Bitcoin, or usually Bitcoin, or you PayPal money to a certain address.
In order to regain access to your own stuff?
Correct. So, and the worst part is...
What if you have a backup?
Then you're fine. But the way that the virus spreads is it targets and replicates and goes to a bunch of different people. And there's a lot of elderly people and moms and shit in the world who have photos of their children on the computer. And they're like, don't wipe my computer. And they're like, well, if you try to log in 3 more times, we'll wipe your computer. So you have to send us Bitcoin first.
And how does that happen? Because then you have remote access to someone's computer, correct?
What do you mean?
Well, in order to clear a hard drive, you have to have...
No, it's written into the code.
Really?
Mm-hmm. In the same way that you can do it with your phone. If you can set that thing on your iPhone where if you put in the wrong passcode 10 times, it'll wipe your phone.
No, it doesn't.
That's a setting in your iPhone right now in your
What?
security settings.
No
You
way.
can restrict
Where's
the
my
number
phone?
of... That was an accidental hack on the
That was
way
me
to
trying to
Spencer's
reach
phone.
my phone.
There is a security setting in your iPhone where if you put in the wrong passcode a certain amount of times, it will
Where?
It will restore your phone.
I don't believe you.
Okay, cool. Look it up. I know this to be a fact, and you still do not believe me.
Where would such a thing be located?
Are we really going to do this on the
Yeah,
podcast?
well,
We're going
we
to
already
explore
are.
your disbelief
Yeah,
on the
yes,
Okay,
yes.
great.
You got no follow up? Where do I find it?
I don't know. Fucking look in your phone, dude. It's in the security settings. I'm not your fucking Apple genius, boy.
Well, you were acting like you were.
Head ass boy.
You were acting like you knew a lot of stuff a second ago.
I do know a lot of stuff.
Well, not enough apparently.
iPhone passcode wipe. I will good googly moogly you.
Thank you. You sounded like you knew it a second ago.
Enable
bud.
erase option to delete data after 10 failed passcode attempts.
Yep.
If you go
Where
to
did I do that at?
If you go to go to settings.
Yep.
Tap on passcode.
I touch ID and passcode. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Keep going.
Can you find an option that says erase data?
Yes. Oh, well, yeah, look at that.
Fucking yeah, exactly what I told you. If 10 failed attempts to unlock your device have been made, all of your private data will automatically be erased.
Well, goddamn.
Yes, exactly.
Goddamn.
God damn.
Thank you.
That was not my best. That was not my best. Noop.
All right.
God damn. Yeah, so like that's what they write into those things that will legitimately wipe people's computers.
And how would such a thing make its way onto your computer, though?
I mean, there's lots of ways, and this goes back to all the different things that I was kind of covering. But you could open an attachment in an email thinking it's from a friend when it's not, and it's actually something else. You could put a USB device into your computer, and if you opened up just the folder, sometimes it can deploy a worm or a virus like that onto your computer. Lots of things like that. Clicking certain images, running Flash. There's lots of vulnerabilities related to like Flash and other things like that. So depending on what links you get sent and what you have running on your computer, these things can all trigger.
Is that why Flash is kind of going away?
Yeah, for sure. It's like well hated amongst developers for its security vulnerabilities and a couple other reasons. Drags on pages and stuff like that. So that's kind of a top level understanding of hacking.
Does that mean it's alien time?
No, because I got to give you the history. Let's take one more quick break, and then I'm going to run you back.
We never take 2 breaks. Tell me about history.
All right.
We don't even have ads. The fuck are we taking 2 breaks for?
All right. Let me rewind you. So now that you have kind of a contemporary understanding of what hacking is, or can be, I should say. We didn't really talk about hacktivism, but we don't really have to. Like, you don't understand the concept of hacktivism. It's people who are kind of in the gray hat category, who hack for like political means or to
Robin Hood hackers.
Kind of, yeah.
Or
like,
illegal shit for the greater good.
Like a lot of people would consider Anonymous to be a hacktivist group because most of their hacking is done with political aim, taking over.
Well, and they're not profiting off of it usually, right?
No, I don't think ever actually. They profit off of it. It's more like, if you're a dictator, we might take over your country's website and put up a Photoshop picture of you like with a bunny hat on or something because you're a fucking idiot or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But hacktivism is another one that kind of falls into that gray category and also kind of goes with the, I don't know, I guess I would say like the playful nature of hackers. Like there's this very interesting aspect of hackers that are, it's like, it's cheeky, like there's like a cleverness or like sense of humor to a lot of what's done and the way things are done.
Sure.
Not always, but often it's sort of an ongoing characteristic of the way that like hackers and hacks work.
Yeah.
What's your
There's a lack of social skills involved in the way that hackers work.
I mean, maybe, but it's also a lot of like they roast people or they use memes or they, I understand that those are not necessarily always the socially most forthright things, but I think that's part of it. It's like they fuck with people.
Yeah, for sure.
Which,
I think there's a lot of self-indulgent, corny shit that happens sometimes too. Like, you've been hacked by blah, 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 blah. I've got this cool nickname and I'm elite.
There is definitely a little bit of the elite hackers or whatever, people who self-designate as elites or are in elite groups of hacking. But there's definitely some ego involved. It's people who within that community, you're like, check out what I did or check out what I'm capable of, or the people who changed the banner on the CIA's website, they were probably running around the internet forums being like, "What up?"
Right, which is
kind of
cool,
corny.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. It's kind of corny.
I don't know why that's necessarily something to be psyched about, but
yeah. All right. So the history of hacking.
Go ahead, dude.
There's a lot.
That's all you.
There's a lot of early dates, but the first actual appearance of the word hack happened 1955. So in 1955, at MIT, there was a meeting in April of 55.
They reorganized some library books or something? What the hell is a 1955 hack?
The Tech Model Railroad Club had a meeting at the organization. And the minutes of the meeting have a documented line where it says, Mr. Eccles requests that anyone working on or hacking on the electrical system turn the power off to avoid fuse blowing. So that's the first actual, as it relates to technology and electronics, use of the word hacking that we have documented.
But he was an electrician or what?
What do you mean?
What were they hacking?
Kids were playing with the electrical power of the actual model railroads and shit, and the mechanisms that changed the trains to different tracks and the lights and stuff like that. So hacking with the tech that makes those things.
So it has always been just the nerdiest shit possible.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The first instance of it is a model train club at MIT.
At MIT.
Yeah, it's yes,
Okay.
in the best way. Come on, man. I grew up the biggest nerd. You can't hate.
I mean, I can.
You sure? Fine. You're not cool. You're not cool.
Heck.
In 1957, so fast forward a couple years, and I think you're going to be excited about this one. Do you know Joy Bubbles?
Joy Bubbles?
Joy Bubbles.
No.
Joy Bubbles. Joy Bubbles.
Sounds real dumb.
Do you remember Finding Nemo?
Yeah.
Bubbles, 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 bubbles.
Yeah.
It's Joy Bubbles, dude.
I don't know what the fuck you did.
Joe and Gracia.
What the fuck was that?
Joe and Gracia, a blind 7-year-old boy with perfect pitch, discovered that whistling the fourth E above middle C into a phone would interfere with AT&T's automated telephone systems, inadvertently opening a door for phreaking the phone.
Yes.
The use of a frequency of exactly 2600 hertz opened the line to free international calling.
The phone receiving just a tone at 2.6K equaled free international calls?
I don't fully understand how.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't fully understand how phone phreaking works. But the way that I understand it, I think you've actually read more about it than I have. But the way that I understand phone phreaking is that back in the day, in the early 50s and 60s, very, very, very early tones were what they used to correspond to international phone lines, I guess.
Okay.
And so if you put in a certain money to pay for a long distance call through a payphone or something like that.
And the password was 2.5K?
Then it would trigger a sound that would bump it into an international line instead of out of a local line.
What?
That's how I understand
That
Phreaking,
was their
dude.
security, was just if you put in, if it receives a tone at a certain frequency.
Yeah, but it required a blind 7-year-old with perfect pitch to break it for the first time.
No, I mean, that sounds like it's just dumb luck. If anybody else had played a fucking sine
maybe.
wave at 2600 hertz, they would have also had the same result.
Sure, but I mean, maybe somebody had an understanding of how actual...
How would you, though? The 7-year-old kid didn't have that information. He was just whistling, and one day it worked, right?
I don't know.
It's got to just be trial and error.
I guess the term, the way that the wiki explains it is that the term first referred to groups of people who reverse engineered systems of tones that were used to route long distance calls. By recreating them, these tones, phreaks, they call them, Phreaks, phone freaks. Phreaks could switch calls from a phone handset, allowing free calls to be made around the world.
So maybe if you actually paid for an international call, it would play that tone for you, and then someone recreated it, realizing that that's the tone. Perhaps?
Yeah, that's what I said. If you put the coinage into like an actual payphone, it would trigger a tone in the ear set that would take it to a. You always know how you like if you dialed out of an office building, you've done it before, like press 1 to get an outside line. It's like that, but for international calling. And if you put money in, you would hear the thing go. Bing, and then it would go boop, and it would switch it up to the line.
So some kid perfectly recreated
2.6 into the phone and realized that he didn't actually have to put the money in. It just required the line listen for the sound to swap lines.
Got you. Regardless of where that was coming from.
Exactly. So from that, people started creating what were called blue boxes, which were homemade little mini boxes.
You just need like a sine wave generator or something, right?
Yeah, or just, it was literally like a little sound, sort of little mini sound box, basically. So you didn't need to have perfect pitch because that could perfectly...
You needed a small synthesizer, basically.
Yeah, exactly, that you could press a button on and it would go bing and it would make the sound. So basically people started making and having little clubs where they would make these little blue boxes and selling them to people, etc. And then people would use them to get free long distance calling, which we don't really think about that much anymore. But
it doesn't
back in
matter
the day,
at all now, but it was a big deal in the 50s especially, but
if you're
more recently in that.
Right. But if your family lived in another state or whatever, it would be a buck,
long distance
a buck
calls
a minute
were a thing until cell phones were everywhere, really.
Right, for sure.
Till like the 2000s, probably.
For sure. And for sure, 50 cents, buck a minute. So if you wanted to be,
right,
on the phone for an hour with your girlfriend who's 4 states away back home, that's $60. And in the 50s, $60 was a lot of fucking bucks. And
when I was in the summer between 7th and 8th grade, so I would have been 14, which would have made it 19. No, math is hard. That would have made it 99 or 2000. I was obviously living at my parents' house.
Yep.
And this girl that I really liked from school lived at her mom's place in Idaho over the summer. And I remember getting in trouble with my parents because I was talking to this girl who was in Idaho
for way too long at
night. For
like
an hour and a half one night.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was really cool and had a phone in my room.
Yeah.
And then my dad was like, What
the fuck was that?
when he looked at his phone bill.
Yeah.
And
$117 worth of phone calls in the past, whatever.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that girl who usually lives down the street is in Idaho right now, and I didn't realize how phones work.
And he's like, tight, go mow the lawn 30 times, you little shit.
Go get a job, my guy.
Pay for that habit, young man.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
So people often credit this whole Phreaking concept of overcoming what people thought were too steep of fees for long calls by playing with the technology as really the first form of hacking that we understood as a society. And then you push that to 1963, where MIT student newspaper basically uses the first instance of telephone hackers in an article about people who were tying up the lines at Harvard because they were calling a bunch of people back home, calling friends, calling around the world, whatever.
Get off the party line.
Yeah. Accumulating large phone bills at the university because they could make free long distance calls.
When's the last time that you had a landline telephone?
My parents just got rid of theirs.
In a place where you lived.
Would have been It would have been the last time I lived with my parents.
Which would be what year?
Well, I lived at home for a little bit when I moved back from Los Angeles. So
I mean, you also had a cell phone at that point, right? You wouldn't have given someone that phone number as your phone number.
No, never. Have
you ever as an adult? Has your main phone number been a landline ever as an adult?
No, not as an adult. It was in high school for like the first couple years of high school when I didn't have a cell phone. But then, like I said, I got a cell phone when I was like a sophomore or a junior in high school.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever lived in a place and had a landline.
I thought it would be fun. They basically give it away to you for free with like your internet and your cable anyway. And I always thought it'd be fun to have a landline. I don't know why. I was
thinking about that the other day. Like I pay whatever, an obscene amount for cable and internet every month. And it used to be that they would you would get a deal if you bundle. I remember when Comcast was doing for $99, you can get cable and internet phone and home phone.
Exactly.
I was like, I wonder if do they even still offer that?
Yeah, I think they do.
Like I could get a phone here at the studio and just have that be right?
Our call-in line for when we do live shows?
I don't think I've lived in this house for 6 years and we've never had a phone, obviously.
Right.
I'm assuming it's wired for it because my house is 100 years old, but.
Well, for sure. I bet you have a phone line in this house. There's
not a jack in this room.
Really?
Yeah. We'd have to I don't even know.
There's probably one in your living room.
There is somewhere in my house, I'm sure, but there's not in here.
I bet you there's one in your living room that they just run back through the wall.
My parents' house was built in the 80s, and there was a phone jack in literally every room, including all of the bathrooms.
Whoa.
Right?
Sweet bathroom phones.
And so it was kind of like a bougie 80s house that I grew up in. And one of the bathrooms in the house that was like me and my brother's bathroom had a sauna and a phone jack in it.
Whoa.
And that's like...
Dude, I know you grew up rich, man. That's tight.
Yeah, super, super rich, dude.
You and your brother shared a sauna with a phone in it. I don't feel like that's like not rich.
No, it was super fucking weird. And I a couple of times pretended to be like an 80s businessman and be like, yeah, I'm going to do my homework in the sauna.
You're going to put a towel on and read a newspaper.
And call one of my 3 friends and see what he's doing. Make some business decisions.
What are you doing? Nothing, man. Just sweating it out real quick.
Getting a steam on.
Sweating out last night's party.
Doing this algebra. I was doing algebra in high school. I was kind of slow.
Hey, look. If y'all don't know that we're a little bit slow at this point.
Bro, we're at an hour. Can I talk about Gary McKinnon yet?
I'll just say this. I won't go through any of the further I won't go through any of the more further details. What I will say is basically what happens from that point is that same culture of people who are phone freaking persists into the invention of the personal computer. And people start having more computers in their homes and in libraries and laptops and things like that. And people use sort of a similar ethos of what can we do with the technology to do something else. And that sort of is what's led us to what we've got right now, which is this diaspora of different types of hackers and hacking and done for different reasons. And it's why you see all kinds of versions of this, which is people who are, plastering political messages on government websites. You see people who hack into Twitter accounts of Burger King and rename it McDonald's and put the McDonald's logo in for their Twitter account, whatever that was, a year ago or a couple years ago. And that goes back to the cleverness part, or the funny part. It's just people who are just this is funny to me to change Burger King's Twitter to McDonald's.
Because I can.
Yeah, I can do this, and it's funny to me to make Burger King McDonald's
Which
for a
is
day.
Also, that's how teenage boys think.
Yeah, it's part of the ego of the whole thing is what happens if I press this red button? Don't push the red button.
You go to jail for 20 years, dumb fuck.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to press the red button anyway because I still kind of want to see what it does.
Speaking of going to jail for a long time.
Gary
McKinnon.
Okay.
In 2001.
Yep.
Hacked roughly 100 different American military and NASA servers.
100?
Mm-hmm.
That's too many, Gary.
Gary.
Do one, Gary.
Well, Gary lives in the UK.
Oh.
And he was doing this all from his girlfriend's aunt's house in London.
Nice. Good cover, Gary.
And he was like, I don't know.
It's me, aunt. She's fucking crazy.
That was really good.
Thanks.
Proud of you, bro. It's getting
Thank you.
better.
Thanks.
You
Look, I got roasted one time. I gotta set my fucking game.
You got roasted one time and you went over there and learned.
That's true. That was the purpose
Firsthand.
of my entire trip to the UK was to not get roasted again.
He gained access to first NASA and then several other American governmental websites.
Yep.
Because they had something called NetBIOS sharing open on their computers.
Whoa.
Which meant that if you knew the IP address of a computer or server, you could directly access everything on that computer.
Oh, wow. That sounds like an insane vulnerability. Good Lord. What year was this?
This is 01.
That doesn't seem right.
Right. And so what Gary did was he Googled or whatever. Google, were they around in 01? Was that like the dominant search engine in 01?
I don't think so.
He asked Jeeves the IP address of NASA.
Oh, no, I'm wrong. It would have been around. I don't know if it was the dominant one, but it would have been around.
He Yahoo'd it or something.
Yahoo or AOL searched.
Yeah. Anyway, he just through a search engine found the IP address of various NASA servers and tried plugging them in and seeing what showed up.
Hey, does this work?
And he...
Oh my God, I can control the missiles.
Well, he got access to 100 different servers and in the process accidentally deleted a lot of data, software, and files, which cost the U.S. government over $700,000 to recover.
Well...
He also taunted the military by leaving a message that said, "Your security system is crap. I am solo. I will continue to disrupt at the highest levels." Because...
Ballsy move, Gary.
Well, his main reason for doing all of this, though, was because he was really interested in UFOs and aliens. And so he specifically targeted NASA because he was looking for files that contained evidence of extraterrestrials.
Nice, Gary.
And he claims that he found them.
Okay, well, where they at, though?
Well, he got access to a server at Building 8 at the Johnson Space Center, where he found folders containing high-resolution satellite images contained in two separate folders that were labeled as processed or unprocessed. And he claims that he found images that both contained images of UFOs and photoshopped versions of those images in which the UFOs had been removed. And that he has screenshots of said images.
Where they at, though?
According to Gary, I quote, I was able to briefly see one of the pictures. It was a silvery, cigar-shaped object with geodesic spheres on either side. There were no visible seams or riveting. There was no reference to the size of the object, and the picture was taken presumably by a satellite looking down on it. The object didn't look man-made or anything like what we have created. So he found these images, took screenshots of them, saved them to his hard drive. He also said, "I know that governments suppressed anti-gravity, UFO-related technologies, free energy, or what they call zero-point energy. This should not be kept hidden from the public." So his whole motivation was, I'm going to hack into NASA servers, CIA servers, American government servers to get access to this UFO and free energy related information that they're withholding from the public.
Why doesn't he share them with us?
Because he got arrested.
Gary, you silly motherfucker. Maybe you shouldn't have taunted the U.S. military, bro.
While he was poking around on these NASA computers, someone noticed and they disconnected him. But before they disconnected him, they jotted down
where he was.
Well, they jotted down his IP address because he was doing it directly from his girlfriend's aunt's IP address instead of through some sort of proxy.
He was also saying, I'm in here alone, motherfuckers.
I am solo.
Eat shit. I'm awesome. I'm Gary.
No, he's Solo because he has a cool hacker nickname.
I guess.
Solo and the Wookiee.
You know, he was just a huge Star Wars nerd.
Yeah, of course.
This whole concept of, so I got another, oh, sorry, is there more from Gary?
There is more to that because he got arrested. And
As you do when you do some shit like that.
The problem, though, was that he did all of this from London. He's a UK citizen. But all of the crimes, quote unquote, or the alleged crimes were against the United States.
Yep.
And he was only being charged with stuff by the United States government. And in order to prosecute him, they had to get extradition from the UK.
Uh-huh.
And the UK basically said, fuck that, we're keeping Gary. Maybe fix your security issues.
Gary's ours.
And it was 11 years of legal back and forth until the UK finally said, if you extradite Gary from the UK to the US, he will probably kill himself.
Ooh, well.
And it is against, there's some sort of international law relating to human rights.
Sure.
That if you're going to put someone in
a dangerous situation,
danger
sure,
due to extradition, that you cannot. And so the UK effectively blocked his extradition to the United States. And after 12 years, he was able to just go about his business being a dude again in the UK.
Okay, Gary.
And so in the last few years, he started doing interviews and stuff about, here's what I saw, here's how I did it. I'm finally able to use computers again, because for that 11 years, he was banned from using a computer or accessing the internet.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Like, think about not using the internet for 11 years.
I mean, that's for sure what happens to most people who go to jail for hacking or using computers.
But he wasn't locked up. He was just at home.
But he wasn't allowed to use computers, right? For what he had done?
Right.
Yeah.
But also, that meant for him that he couldn't work for 11 years because that was the only area in which he had any experience or training.
That's true.
And so it seemed sort of like, we just don't want to cooperate and we're going to find a loophole to not cooperate with you, United States.
I get that.
But after 11 years, I think it may have been justifiable that, if you keep this dude from working and making a living and doing anything in life,
right,
you may as well just end his life at that point.
Right.
You've already taken 11 years from him. Now you're going to lock him up for however many more.
Right.
Fuck off. Either kill Gary or leave him alone.
Yeah. Be done with it.
He also, so now there are, if you search Gary McKinnon, you can find interviews with him, and he's done some press in the US and stuff. He also thinks that anti-gravity and free energy technology is being suppressed by the American government. He doesn't think that people have ever been to the moon, although he's basing a lot of his claims on information that he stole from NASA.
I was just about to go, and
I'm not really sure how
we've been to space. We've got a lot of pictures of UFOs. We just haven't actually made it to the moon.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's not the most impossible thing.
Isn't it?
I mean, I don't know.
He thinks NASA has pictures of UFOs, but he doesn't think we've been to the moon.
I mean, I guess I would say...
So NASA's lying to you when it's convenient, or when you want them to be lying to you?
I 100% think we've been to the moon, because if you look at fucking satellite imagery and fucking telescopes and shit, you can see the trails of where our actual rovers and shit have gone. So I believe this to be true.
I don't know if you listened to last week's episode, but I did leave in the part where you were yelling, and I just cut you off about yelling about the moon.
No, that's fine.
That's how last week's episode ended.
No, that's good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's warranted. But I guess I can see him saying it's easier to fly spaceships and satellites and take pictures from spaceships and satellites than it is to actually land one, then get back off of one and into one and then back home.
He says none of the Apollo missions happened. He goes really far with it.
Well, Gary, I feel like you're doing the most, Gary, and you could be doing a lot less and getting a lot better success out of things.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing the most and people who do too much.
This episode?
There is this episode of the What If Podcast. In 2002, there was a hacker whose name we now know is Adrian Lamo, who was 19 years old in 2002 and decided to do a penetration test, if you will.
Heck.
About and around the New York Times. And Adrian super successfully jumped through some hoops and through some walls to get inside of the New York Times and accessed sensitive records, which included an extensive database of op-ed writers that the paper had used in the past, with records containing names, phone numbers, home addresses, and payment history on many contributors to the New York Times. I'm reading from an article on csoonline.com, by the way, such as Democratic strategist James Carville, former Secretary of State James Baker, the actor Robert Redford, and many more. So Adrian goes through and yanks a bunch of like phone numbers and home addresses for extremely important political figures and
Robert Redford,
movie stars.
Bobby,
and
what up?
Bobby Redface, what's up? And a bunch of other people. But get this shit. Adrian, in his process of finding this list after he's fucking hacked into the New York Times servers and database, decides to go to the list of important contributors and speakers and add his own fucking name.
It's aggressive.
He added Adrian Lamo to the list, and under expertise in the server list wrote computer hacking, national security, and communications intelligence.
Nobody cares.
like as if someone was one day going to be like, "Oh, we need an expert on like hacking and national security. Can somebody go consult the server list?" And they're just going to be like, "Has anyone ever had Adrian Lamo on before?" No. Let's just get him on the podcast and like it'll be great. He'll know what he's talking about.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
Adrian, you can't deceive the New York Times, my guy, by just hacking into their servers and saying that you're a knowledgeable contributor to their fucking shit.
A lie was born.
Yes, the fuck it was. Yes, the fuck it was. But yeah, the ego sometimes I think overtakes the effectiveness of the process.
Bold move. I respect it.
I respect it too. Mm-hmm. Hey, good on you, Adrian. You know,
shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot from half a court. So anyway, there's a million things we could get into with hacking. There's probably some of you right now who are like, "Oh, aren't you going to talk about the Russians and the election?" And no, we're not, because that shit.
Oh no!
That shit is not very fun, and it's all over the news. And so other people can cover that shit so much better than us, and we'll let them be the experts.
I forgot one thing about Gary.
Oh boy, Gary. You're okay. All
One
right.
of the things that he got access to was a spreadsheet that was titled non-terrestrial officers.
Ooh, cool.
Which he interpreted to be spacemen,
Okay.
but which was most likely Navy officers who are on boats rather than on land.
Sure, that makes sense.
But they might have been aliens, if you ask Gary McKinnon.
Or people who like live on the ISS indefinitely that we don't even know about are up there.
I don't think that's a thing.
No, it's not. But Gary probably thinks it is.
Heck.
This has been entirely too long and
whatever.
ridiculous.
Whatever. We love you guys, and we hope that you loved this episode, even though we went a little all over the place. Let us know if you like the Wikipedia game at WhatIfPod on Twitter, or send us an email at hi@whatifpodcast.com.
I really don't care if you like it or not. I'm going to do it again
We're
forever.
doing more of it. We're doing more of it. We actually did say with the Wikipedia game that we're hoping that what it helps us do is find topics for really interesting full episodes. So we'll probably do one and be like, "Holy shit, that's incredible!" And then we're just going to do a full episode on it. So,
Like Gef the Talking Mongoose.
that's not a real thing that we.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, maybe then we did do animal intelligence and animals that could talk, so maybe we got to do a part 2. Do we have any announcements?
I think we spent the first 25 minutes doing all this.
I guess we did a lot of that. So
we love you. Goodbye. We'll talk to you next week.
We'll see you next week.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
We'll be back next week with another episode of the What If Podcast. Learn more at www.whatifpodcast.com.